sure.
I should have checked that. I
Sorry.
didn't say anything then.
Yeah, just be a bit vague.
Say the word.
Thank you, Stephen. A number of guests duly introduced by fellows beg leave to attend your meeting. Is it your pleasure that I welcome them in your name? Thank you. Minutes.
Ordinary meeting Thursday, the 10th of April, 2025, Burlington House and online. Professor Martin Millett, President in the chair. The minutes of the ordinary meeting of Thursday, the 3rd of April, 2025 were read and signed. The following communication was then laid before the Society. George Shaw, entrepreneurial architect, antiquary, forger, Society of the Antiquaries of London, Burlington House, Piccadilly, London. Thanks for return for this communication. The President announced that the next meeting would be on Thursday, the 2nd of October, and then adjourned the meeting. A reception followed.
Is it your pleasure that I sign these as true minutes, a true and complete record? Thank you. For our anniversary meeting, there were valid nominations for Director, Dr. Sam Lucy, ordinary members of Council, Dr. Kenneth Brophy, Dr. Stuart Bryant, Tim Lawton, and Dr. Dustin Frazier-Wood. No other valid nominations received, so no ballot is required. So I declare those new members of Council and officer duly elected. This marks the end of term of service for a current director, John Cooper, who I will be saying a little bit more about in my anniversary address later. And as ordinary members of Council, Dr. Bob Bewley, Dr. Timothy Schroeder, Dr. Anne McSween, Professor Simon Kaner. Very grateful, and the Society is very grateful to both John and the ordinary members of Council retiring for their service over the last 3-4 years. Fellows present will be aware that this has been a difficult and complex time for the Society while we've been dealing with lease negotiations and other things. And I personally and other officers are extremely grateful to these council members for their service beyond the call of duty, one might say, in difficult times. So if we could record our thanks to them for that. We have a list of the nominations for fellowship, blue papers. Natasha, could you?
Thank you. So the following candidates for election we put to a ballot. The results of the ballot will be posted on the Society's website. Blue papers are available for inspection on the Fellows platform. Their names are as follows: Francis Bailey, Olav Bayer, Fraser Brown, Mark Bryant, Geraldine Finlayson, Elizabeth Green, Mariah Jordan, David McFarlane, Hannah O'Regan, Colin Tom, Susan Wabuda, and David Walsh.
Thank you, Natasha. That ballot will close on the 5th of June. We had a ballot today, including voting in person. The following were elected fellows: Katerina Böhm, Sharon DeWitt, Heimo Dolenz, Tom Holmes, Christoph Huchel de Quentin, Sophie Kraut, Mary Jane Nichols, Daniel Phillips, Peter Sabor, and Bill Stocking. I now call upon the Treasurer to present her address.
Standing behind the lectern for microphone reasons, not because I have a long address to make, but I'm sure this is not everybody's favourite part of the afternoon, but I hope I bring some good news. Fellows will be aware that there has been a delay in the finalisation of the Society's 2024 accounts and their approval by Council. I'm pleased to report that the auditors have now finished their work and given an unqualified audit opinion on the financial figures, which are contained in the report of Council and financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2024. This will be available soon on our website. The reasons behind this delay stem from inadequate interim cover for the sabbatical of our Head of Finance, Katie Drake. It became clear to Katie when she returned from sabbatical in August of last year that the financial accounting related to the year ended 31st of March 2024 needed to be checked and corrected literally line by line. I'd like to thank Katie and her colleagues for completing this unenviable task. I'd also like to thank the auditors, Moore Kingston Smith LLP, for modifying their timetable for the audit in response to the progress of this work. Thanks are also due to the Finance Committee of the Society, who have similarly been ready to review documents on a different timescale to the usual. They've also been a source of sound guidance on how to remedy matters and learn lessons from the issues experienced during the 2024 financial year. Now, later you'll be hearing that Katie will be leaving us to pursue a different direction later this month, and I will let Martin thank her more fully on behalf of the Society. But I'm pleased to report that her successor, Dr. Sophia Collingwood, has been appointed and will join us shortly. The Finance Committee members were also very active in this recruitment process in terms of developing the brief and being represented on the interview panel. The handover is underway between Katie and Sophia, whose first task will be getting the financial figures for the year ended 31st of March 2025, which has just gone by, obviously, prepared for audit. So it's straight on to the next one, as it were. So turning to the 2024 financial year, I'll give a brief resume. Now, according to our procedures, the Finance Committee has reviewed these figures and recommended them to Council, and Council, as I said, has now approved the financial statements, and these will be submitted to the Charity Commission as soon as possible, and as I said, will also be on our website. The report complies with charity accounting standards and follows a set format made up of four main sections. The first provides narrative about the activities of the Society. The second gives information on our legal structure and governance. The third is the audit report prepared by our auditors, Moore Kingston Smith. And the fourth contains the detailed financial information about the revenues and costs arising from the Society's activities. The total income for the year to March 31st, 2024 was 2.822 million, up from 2.532 million, up about 11% from the previous year, therefore. The main reasons behind this growth is that donations and legacies grew over £1 million, grew to over £1 million from £695,000. An unrestricted legacy from Dr. Anthony Emery's estate was an important part of this growth, and this legacy has subsequently been used to fund a substantial part of the first payment for the Burlington House lease. On the cost side of the equation, consolidated expenditure increased modestly to £3.16 million from £3.11 million the previous year, showing how well budget heads controlled their costs in an inflationary environment. Our net deficit for the year, before gains and losses on investments and actuarial adjustments on defined benefit pension schemes was a loss of £541,000, which is slightly better than the loss of £579,000 the previous year. After those unrealised and realised gains on our investment portfolio and an actuarial gain on our pension fund investments, we registered a net income of £574,000 compared with a net deficit for the previous year of £1.54 million. As the numbers we focus on most closely when determining the long-term financial health of the Society are the total unrestricted funds carried forward at the end of the year, which grew from £5.8 million in 2023 to £6.5 million in 2024. These are the funds that we have at our disposal to see the Society through difficult times. And although these grew in 2024, the Emery donation, which has subsequently, as I said, been spent during the 2025 financial year on the first payment on the lease, accounted for more than the entirety of the improvement. It is therefore a matter of considerable concern to the Finance Committee and the Council that the Society continues to operate at a financial deficit of around £500,000 per annum. And this deficit, as I said, has to be funded out of unrestricted reserves, which stood at, to recap, 6.5 million at the 31st of March 2024. Now, put another way, we could continue to lose money at this level for another 13 years before we hit the wall. But of course, we don't want to do that. We want to balance the books as soon as possible. So turning to the financial year just ended at 31st of March 2025, as I said, no sooner have we completed the audit for 2024 than the preparation of the new financial accounts for 25 must begin. And what I can tell you at this present moment is that we have drawn on our investment portfolio again during the year to draw down unrestricted funds to fund the deficit and indeed the first payment on the lease. As a result of this, the value of our investments at 31st of March 2025 was £13 million, down from £14.5 million at the 31st of March 2024. Now, markets were good to us for the best part of the financial year 2025, the one just ended, in other words, until President Trump's policies began to affect markets adversely from when he took charge on the 20th of January. Today, our portfolio is worth 12.6 million, which is down from 13 million at the 31st of March 2025. Where we go from here, it very much depends, in my view, on the actions of the White House. But I would like to reassure fellows that our investment managers, Saracen & Co., run a diversified portfolio on our behalf and now hold more cash, gold and bonds and fewer equities than they did a year ago. So they are in a more defensive position. Turning finally to the outlook for the work on the financial side of the Society for the coming year, I very much look forward to working with our new Head of Finance and our Chief Executive to produce a financial plan for the medium term, to produce a plan that will move us towards balancing the books. With the lease negotiations settled, we're now well positioned to fundraise to secure a sustainable future for the organisation. As I said last year, our excellent programme of lectures and events, alongside our growing cohort of affiliate members, will play an important part in supporting our revenue generation and fundraising efforts, such as we can rebuild our reserves and create a sustainable and financially resilient future for the Society for many generations to come. Thank you very much. Now, I am willing to take questions. I appreciate there's a lot there. A lot of numbers have been passed on to you. I'd be delighted to take questions if there are any, and we'll bring the mic to you if you'd like it. There's one here and one at the back after that.
Hello. I just wondered what advice you've been getting from Saracens about our position post Donald Trump's antics.
If I've understood correctly, the question is concerning what advice we've been getting post-Trump with regard to tariffs and currencies and so on. Saracens are, I think, in the top 3 of charity advisors in the UK. And one of the things they do, and I would thoroughly recommend following this if this is a matter of personal interest to you, every 2 weeks they do a YouTube broadcast called 6 Minute Strategy. And they use that to update their clients and anybody who's interested, really, on what's happened in the previous 2 weeks and how they've positioned the investment portfolios to anticipate some of these changes, but also to react to changes. While they still have about 2/3 of our money invested in equities, which is the right way to invest to protect against inflation in the long run, they have moved that position very slightly down in order to have gold within the portfolio and to increase the amount of cash and bonds that they hold. So that had all been put in place gradually ahead of, the very big turbulence that we've seen. And if they hadn't done that, I think they would have experienced more of a fall in the last few weeks. Nobody has a crystal ball to know how this will work out. I myself have been asked to comment on the matter in Welsh and in English on the radio to try and disaggregate what the different national interests are, the currency interests are. But I think in truth, nobody knows. And the answer is to have a diversified portfolio. And while it might be tempting to think that we should walk away from American equity holdings, the truth is that they have a tremendous competitive advantage by virtue of the fact that they're self-sufficient in energy. So they're immune from some of those big price rises that we've seen in our energy in this country, and something that's made, for example, German heavy industry uncompetitive. So we give all of that work to Saracen to do on our behalf, but we follow closely what's going on in the portfolio through the 6 Minute Strategy and regular contact with our investment managers. I don't think anybody's got an answer, but I hope that clarifies matters. One in the back. Oh.
Hello. I'd like to say in 12 years when I was General Secretary that Saracens were fantastic. They did a brilliant job looking after our money. And I had every confidence in them then. And I think, given the troubled times we're in, I wouldn't want anybody else looking after our money. Turning to what you've just said, a couple of things, 2 things really, expenditure and income. Expenditure, I'm relieved to say that I note the USS employers' contribution has decreased thanks to the magical turnaround in the USS pension burden. So that is something that we are saving money on, considerable amounts of money on. And also the ever-increasing rent, which was very difficult to predict. And I'd be very interested to know if the deficit that you've just reported includes an allocation for rent. Are we still paying rent while we're buying the lease? So,
That figure did, yes.
Yeah.
That's a very simple answer.
yeah, we are we?
Well, I was talking about the year ended March
Yes.
the 31st.
So going forward,
Yeah.
are we paying an enormous and ever increasing amount of money for the rent until we purchase the lease?
No,
No. So that will come off the balance sheet. then, will it?
exactly. It will be, it was never on the balance sheet.
No, no, but it'll come
the
off
asset will go on to the balance
Yes.
sheet,
Yeah.
and we will not be paying rent,
Right.
but we have more to pay in respect to that lease.
Yes, and we do have tens of thousands that they still owe us. So we did still owe us for repairs that we paid for, and they never. And so we've got that back. Have we? Thanks, Katie. We got it back. Right. Income. When I left, council finally managed to at least take control or have a say in how we generate the mechanism by which we generated most of our income, well, a lot of our income, and that is nominations of fellows to the society and growing our affiliate base. They got associates or affiliates. And I'd be very interested to know how council looks to project to actually increase that income, because that is a main source of income, and actually to engage those new fellows and new affiliates in the activities of the society, because that is a key part of any forward strategy. I'd be interested to see how numbers are growing or not there. And finally, I note that under the Kelmscott business plan that we launched, we should now be up to, I think, somewhere around 40,000 visitors per annum. And I noticed from Salon that last year we achieved somewhere around 25,000. And I think the projections, I recall, it's dim and distant past now, but the business plan did project we should be creating a surplus after funding the additional posts at Kelmscott of somewhere in the region of £100,000 a year. And if we're not getting those visitor numbers, then, that's another area of income that I would think needs to be addressed. So any comments?
Right. Well, on the Kelmscott point, the visitor numbers have not achieved what was in the original business plan. There are reasons for that, including a bridge being out of action, but also the impact of COVID. So we're behind. Yeah, well, but behaviours have changed since COVID. Visitor behaviours have changed. And this is across the piece in terms of heritage assets. There is more work to do at Kelmscott, no doubt about that. It's not meeting its plan at present, but there are some good signs on the commercial side, aren't there? With I'm looking at Natasha because she's closer to it than I am. With the shop and teas and that sort of thing, that's going well, and repeat business, people coming multiple times, but perhaps the original plan was over-optimistic. I wasn't here when it was put together, but that is not being met. Well, I don't know, that's why I'm saying perhaps, but it hasn't been achieved. Okay. And are we working on it? Yes, we're working on it very much to try and see what is a realistic target for visitor numbers in the circumstances that we are in now, rather than how we saw it back then.
John, we can't have a conversation because people online can't hear what was that.
Happy to speak outside afterwards. And you were asking about the fellowship and the affiliate membership. The affiliate membership is growing very, very strongly, and the fellowship is stable. It's a question for somebody other than me as to how aggressive we should be on
numbers, as I will say in my address at the moment.
Yeah, Martin will. Yeah. So Martin will address that in his statement. But we're having a lot of interest in the affiliate membership, and that is growing quite strongly, which is important. Any other questions? Yeah. one
Hello,
question
I'm a completely new fellow, so I do apologise if I'm saying things that have already been said over many, many years. I work predominantly in fundraising and in heritage management, so I completely agree with you about the change of visitor behaviours. It's a complete unknown. I'm organising a poetry festival in Cornwall at the moment, and we have to hold our breath till the day, pretty much, as to whether people are going to show up apart from the real keenies. So it's a universal challenge that everyone is facing. I think one of the things that is really important for us to remember is that when you have, like in the room at the moment, a captive audience of people who strongly support what you do, it's building upon that kind of support. So when you say about return visitors, that's something that just needs to keep being built upon. Philanthropic giving is one of the biggest growth areas, and that's something that I'd really encourage the organisation to look through as well. And I wasn't going to say all those things. My question was another one, but I just can't stop myself when I
Thank you.
agree with what you're saying completely. And it is an incredibly challenging time. This is a question which might be really spiky, and I apologise if it is. I'm very much for ethical investment. So I wanted to ask, as a new person coming to the organisation, how important is ethical investment in the portfolio determination?
It is, as I mentioned, that Saracen is a leading charity investor, and the portfolios that we own follow ethical principles. So although they might have an oil company in there still, they certainly won't be there with companies that predominantly produce coal, for example. So I can give you the detail on the portfolio separately, but that is an important service that Saracen deliver for their charity customers. Yep, no, definitely. This is not the place to have, a debate about that, but I'd very much like to talk to you afterwards, if that's all right.
Thank you, Treasurer. We now move to the appointment of Moore Kingston Smith as the Society's auditors 2025-26. Natasha, sorry, we wait for Mike to return. Thanks, Anisha.
Thank you, sorry. Thank you. So this is to approve the appointment of Moore Kingston Smith LLP as the Society's auditors for 2025-26. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Please do not vote if you are a guest, if you are a fellow, if you are not a fellow, you can vote if you're a fellow, or if you have already voted either online or by post. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands, and can you please keep your hand up if you are a fellow, you haven't already voted, and you would like to vote yes to reappoint Moore Kingston Smith as the auditors. Okay, oh Lord, okay, right, keep those hands up. I'll make that 30. Okay, thank you. You can put your hands down now, sorry. And could you please put your hand up and keep it up if you would like to vote no? The appointment, that's wonderful. Okay, well in that case, that is 73 voting to approve.
Are there any votes online?
Thank you.
So we've approved the appointment of Moore Kingston Smith as the Society's auditors 2025-26. Thank you. Now, on a sad note, I would like to just list the names of fellows who have deceased since the anniversary meeting last year. William McCutcheon, John Boardman, Richard Fawcett, John Earl, Robert Irwin, Kate Tiller, Nicholas Humberston, Evelyn Baker, Nicholas Molyneux, Michael Chisholm, Heinz King, John Sell, Timothy Darville, Colin Lattimore, Ralph Jackson, Julian Lytton, Jeremy Sampson, Linda Parry, Dennis Britton, John McAlver, John Michael Fossey, Christabel Hutchins, John McNeil, John Phillips, Rosalind Saville, Maureen Maker, Simon Key, Martin Stancliffe, Julian Bennett, Christopher Kent, Anthony New, Andrea Turner, Alistair Lang, John Coulson, Stephen Bond, Francis Neal, Terence Manby, Ryan McClellan, Howard Hanley, Paul Harvey. On a brighter note, it's my pleasure and duty to thank benefactors for the Society for the year just ended. Normally I would read out a long list of benefactors, even longer than the one I've just read. We have had a very successful appeal for the Burlington House lease campaign. You will be relieved to know that I'm not going to read that full list out, but those who donated are listed on the poster in the hall outside. We will be refreshing that as new donations come in. In addition, the Society is grateful to the following. In terms of cataloguing prints and drawings, we're grateful to Adam Dent and Dan Llewellyn Hall for donating proceeds from the sale of their paintings towards this project. Thanks also go for this to Richard Goddard, Mike Fulford, and the National Manuscript Conservation Trust for their generous contributions towards the digitisation of the Jackson collection. In terms of our early printing blocks, our thanks to the supporters who have now contributed to the cataloguing 50% of the collection blocks. Special thanks to Neil Jenkins, Dr. Ed Harris, Dr. Arlene Lays, David Wickham for their generous donations. In terms of textile research, we're very grateful to the James and Lucilla Joel Charitable Trust, Paul Reeves, for funding an endowment to establish the Linda Parry Textile Research and Conservation Fund. On publications, we're grateful to the Mark Fitch Fund for their funding for the latest of our research reports. For education and public outreach, we're very grateful to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, the John R. Murray Charitable Trust, the Company of Art Scholars, the John Harvest Trust, and Farrow & Co. for funding the forthcoming Magna Carta 1225 to 1225 exhibition and the associated outreach program. In our appeal to conserve the Kelmscott Manor Sampson tapestries, we thank the Aldama Trust, Mark Hassel, Charles Cator, Anne Gordon, Mary Haynes, Neil Jennings, Johanna and Ferdinand Lamerick, Melbourne, Hugh Richards, and the Friends of Peyton Skipwood Fellow for their generous donation. And we note in relation to the bequests that we have already received a very substantial bequest from the late Dr. Anthony Emery and from Professor Peter J. Ferguson Fellow. So those thanks are heartfelt and represent a major achievement from not only the donors, but also our colleagues on the staff who have been promoting fundraising. My second pleasurable duty is to award Society medals. Society medals are to commemorate and celebrate exceptional contributions to the Society. And as I will say in my address a little later, I think it's very important to note the contributions of both volunteers and members of staff for the success and the running of this society. We celebrate those staff and fellows with 2 awards this year. The first award is to Dr. Merrill Foster. Merrill began working as a volunteer for the Society in 2009. Over the last 15 years, she has made an outstanding contribution to the management of the Society's archives. Before the Society was able to employ a paid archivist in 2021, Merrill worked with Heather Rowland on a variety of projects, listing collections and answering complex inquiries. In 2011-12, Merrill was solely responsible for producing the comprehensive list of the papers of the late John A. Goodall, and in 2017, she worked with Trevor Chalmers, technical editor of the Dictionary of British Arms, on a survey of the Croft-Lyons Index to produce a detailed report making sense of a vast collection that was in complete disarray. Those of us who saw it remember, as a result of a number of times when it had been relocated. Merrill was also enormous help with the KMPPF project, delving into the Kelmscott records to provide the vital information needed for the funding application. Since 2021, Merrill has been working with our full-time archivist, both remotely, especially during lockdown, and on site. In this period, she's focused mainly on adding entries and images from minutes of ordinary meetings from 1718 to 1921 to our online catalogue, carrying out surveys of collections, storage areas, and helping the archivist catalogue the complex collections. These are just a few examples of the many ways in which Merrill has contributed to description and increased access to the Society's archives, something that has become a major feature of the Society in the last few years. Through her continued involvement and dedication, Merrill has developed an in-depth knowledge of the Society's archives, of the history of its various discrete collections. This is why we have come to depend on her expertise with help in historic inquiries. She has been enormously generous in her time and always provides help promptly and most thoroughly. So we celebrate your contribution to the Society, Merrill, with the award of a Society Medal. Please do come forward to. Congratulations. Thank you. The second medal this year is going to Stephen Papworth. As he approaches his retirement later this year, we note that Stephen joined this society as supporter and security manager in August 2000, coming up for 25 years ago. Before this, his background was mainly in security, starting his career in universal guarding, and following this, a variety of other roles in residential, building site, and bank security. Stephen was appointed with great forethought by Di Morgan Evans, then General Secretary, and has worked with 5 successive General Secretaries: David Gainster, John Lewis, here this evening, Andrew MacDonald, Memoria Lewis, and now Natasha McEnroe. He has worked with and supported in a variety of ways 9 successive presidents, several of whom are here this evening: Simon Jervis, Rosemary Cramp, Eric Fernie, Jeff Wainwright, Maurice Howard, Jill Andrews, Paul Drury, and myself. Through his work here, he knows Burlington House and our society and its traditions like no other. He also knows many secrets that he is far too discreet to disclose. During the very difficult period of the pandemic, Stephen gave continued dedicated service to the Society. At that stage, historic buildings and their safety provided a major concern. Stephen came into the building regularly to walk through it, to check things, to ensure that all was as it should be, and that the alarms were still functioning. But far more than this, as you will all be aware, Stephen knows all of us, staff and fellows, exceptionally well. He recognises us individually as we come into the building, always having a few friendly words and humorous comments. He is the human face of society, as well as, in many ways, its collective memory. For a quarter of a century, he's been highly valued, deeply respected, and much loved member of staff. So we are delighted to award Stephen a Society medal. Right. We now come to the bit that you've all been reading, which is the President's address. Our long-established tradition, reflected in our statutes, is that our anniversary meeting, our AGM, is held on St. George's Day, the 23rd of April, with the exception being when this day is impracticable because of the date of Easter. Through this exigency, we meet today on another significant date in the calendar for our 274th such meeting since our Royal Charter was granted in November 1751. We meet at a time of considerable change, both for the Society and in the wider world. I'll return to the global context in the second part of my address, but I would like first to offer some reflections on the past year in the Society itself. Since Natasha McEnroe joined us as General Secretary 12 months ago, she has had to deal with an unexpectedly wide range of issues, including unanticipated events. There was a minor flood at Kelmscott in November, and less predictably and more damagingly, one in our storerooms underneath the Royal Society of Chemistry in December. She also inherited a series of problems in our finance department, which the Treasurer has just alluded to, as well as difficult issues concerning the tapestry room project at Kelmscott Manor. I'm extremely grateful to her and her teams here and at Kelmscott Manor for their hard work and fortitude in dealing with these issues, whilst maintaining the busy day-to-day programme of the Society, with apparently no problems as for the outside world to see. There have been, of course, high points in the year too. Principal amongst these was the final resolution of our Burlington House lease. As discussed in my last anniversary address, agreement was reached on the terms of our purchase of a 999-year lease early in 2024. Our documents were signed and sealed on the 13th of September 2024, but only after further nail-biting delays was the purchase finally successfully completed on the 29th of October. Our campaign to raise the 4.8 million for the purchase of our apartments was launched soon afterwards. As of today, fellows have contributed £415,455, which, with the bequest from the late Dr. Anthony Emery, means we have now reached 1.295 million, 27% of the target. We're extremely grateful to those fellows who've contributed, about 9% of the fellowship. This demonstration of fellows' enthusiasm and support is going to be extremely important as we extend our appeal to the wider world. We have planned to initiate this wider campaign during the summer and have a series of fundraising events planned for the autumn. We're aware there is a long road ahead, but we're very heartened by our early progress. Alongside the fundraising to buy the building, we've been working very closely with the other courtyard societies as joint owners of the whole complex on plans for managing and developing the buildings. New governing systems have been put in place with the establishment of a head lease committee, an operating committee, and a visioning group, each comprising officers and staff from all 5 courtyard societies. Among other issues, they are considering financial sustainability, including cost sharing and implementing energy efficiency. This will be a major undertaking. As a first stage, we have already appointed new managing agents who will be responsible to the societies for addressing the backlog of maintenance problems left by our previous landlord. Planning the future of our own apartments, a project now entitled Past Matters to Future at Burlington House, has begun with a newly created project group. They are starting work by looking at comparable projects in historic buildings elsewhere and developing our plans for a truly sustainable future. As we've previously stressed, our vision is for Burlington House to become the natural place for people who work or who are interested in our sector to come together, both formally and informally. But the health of the society requires much more than a building. Our focus on the final stages of securing our lease has meant that strategic planning, on which we have made substantial progress over the last couple of years, has taken a bit of a back seat the past year. However, discussion has been started about the future of research grant publication programs, and I can anticipate that consideration of these strategies will form a major feature of our work in the next year. Equally, we have long benefited from the existence of strong regional and national groups of fellows who have hosted our out-of-London meetings for more than 20 years. This year saw the first meeting of a new Benelux group, and soundings are being made about the establishment of future groups elsewhere. In this context, I was particularly delighted to see the tables turned with the archaeology of Wales being showcased at an event here at Burlington House, organised by HENEP, the Trust for Welsh Archaeology, as part of Wales Week. I very much hope that we will see the building used for other such events, bringing archaeology and other aspects of our interests from other parts of the country and the associated nations to be showcased at Burlington House. Alongside strategic planning and development work, the Society remains in good health. We've elected 160 new fellows in the past 12 months, and after a consultation with the fellowship, we will be bringing forward nominations for new honorary fellowships in the next few weeks. Meanwhile, the number of affiliates has grown to 651. We have had a successful season of ordinary meetings and public lectures, at which it's been particularly gratifying to see a full lecture room and a large online audience on a number of occasions. Other events have included a day conference in July that showcased textile research supported by our Janet Arnold Fund, as well as our Collections Research Day in November. The Society's support for textile research has also been boosted by a generous donation from the James and Lucilla John Charitable Trust that has enabled us to establish the Linda Parry Textile Research and Conservation Fund. This will provide grants to support research and conservation work on ecclesiastical and other textiles from UK churches and other places of worship. In a new departure, in the first week of July, the Society participated in Art Week by hosting a week-long temporary exhibition, The Rain, along with associated events. The exhibition featured 20 contemporary artworks by Adam Dant and Dan Llewellyn Hall, responding to and displayed alongside our own Tudor paintings. Work has, of course, continued behind the scenes on our various publications. The latest edition of the Antiquary recently circulated was guest edited by council members Liz Hallam-Smith and Tom Williams, to whom we are extremely grateful. Our journal publisher, Cambridge University Press, suffered a major technical disruption in their operation between June and September 2024. It led to a delay in the production of the Antiquaries Journal, volume 104, but this has now been distributed. Meanwhile, research report number 84, Lordship and Landscape in East Anglia, AD 400 to 800, by Chris Scull, former director, Stuart Brooks, our journal editor, and Tom Williamson, was published on the 30th of November. And a magnificent piece of scholarship it is too. Do go and read it and look at it. It's a great piece of work. At Kelmscott Manor, past, present, and future, draws towards its conclusion. In 2024 season, it was a great success. Admission numbers total just over 25,000, marginally below the agreed target, whilst the shop and tea room both exceeded their targets, and we anticipate that future online shop sales will enhance income further. At the same time, the Threads the Past project, supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund and individual donors, is now moving ahead. This project involves the conservation of the Samson tapestries and their reinstate tapestry room to be as it was in Morris's time. Listed building consent has now been granted, and the team are working with our architects on tendering the works. Meanwhile, the appointment of textile conservators has also been made. Similarly, at Burlington House, we're grateful to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for its continued support of the Stencing History project, which has brought new audiences to see our collection. This has encompassed our popular Open Fridays and similar events, which have brought over 5,500 visitors to Burlington House in the last year. Building on the success of this programme, we are delighted that the NLHF has now made a further grant to enable us to mark the 800th anniversary of the 1225 Magna Carta this summer. This project will deliver a 9-week public exhibition from the 23rd of July to the 20th of September, and includes a 12-month learning and outreach programme, as well as the creation of a digital online resource featuring the Society's copies of Magna Carta and the Charter of the Forest. This exciting project will provide further opportunities to engage new and different audiences. Our library and archives team have also been pressing ahead with a series of projects to make our archives and collections more readily available for researchers. We now have almost 60,000 records on the online archives catalogue. All blue papers from 1847 to 1946 are digitised, searchable on the catalogue, while the digitisation of our minute book has also been completed, with 20% of the minutes now fully indexed. The retrospective cataloguing of our vast collection of church guides has also progressed well, while over 15,000 glass slides have now been digitised and are being catalogued by remote volunteers. Finally, the team has also initiated a 9-month pilot project to scope the cataloguing and digitisation of the Society's collection of more than 25,000 prints and drawings. The events and activities that I've just reviewed rely on the contribution of both staff and volunteers. I pay tribute and offer a sincere thanks to both. Through a very challenging year, we've been exceptionally well served by our staff, who continue to make the Society run brilliantly and with good humour. It is only those of us who engage with them on a day-to-day basis who fully appreciate what they do for us. In any organisation like ours, there is a regular and natural turnover of staff as people retire or move on to new roles elsewhere. In the current period, we're losing two of our most senior and valued colleagues, as well as several others, including Linda Grant, who left earlier this year, and Kate Bagnall. Katie Drake, our head of finance and resources, is shortly to be leaving to develop our artistic practice. We wish her well and are very grateful indeed for her service over a long period, and especially over the last few very difficult months. Her successor as finance director is Sophie Collingwood, whose previous experience includes leading the finance function at the College of St. George at Windsor Castle. She has a PhD in medieval history and lifelong interest in our fields of interest. We look forward to welcoming her. The other person who is about to leave is Dunia Garcia Antiquaries, our head library and museums collection, who will be leaving in the near future to relocate home to Spain. Dunia has served this society exceptionally since she arrived in 2019. As you will have heard from the accountant a little earlier of the work of the libraries and collections team, you can see that she's not only built an excellent team, but led it through to a series of major initiatives that have literally transformed our library collections and archives. We're immensely grateful to Dunia and trust that she will remain in close contact with us from her new home in the Iberian Peninsula. At Burlington House, volunteers have undertaken a range of tasks in the library and archives, contributing their time and expertise to a wide variety of projects. They've also been performing vital roles in our Sensing History project, especially our popular Open House Fridays. Meanwhile, at Kelmscott, we continue to rely on a dedicated group of volunteers who act as room stewards and environmental stewards. Meanwhile, fellows continue to serve as volunteers on our various committees and on council. A society such as ours is both enriched by the contribution of volunteers and benefits from the synergies between them and our professional staff. As we look to the future, I hope we will see further growth and enhancement in such volunteer roles. It is clear to me that learned societies, and especially fellowship organisations, create a particular set of relationships between staff and volunteers. We need to nurture and value these. Finally, in my review of internal matters, I'd like to pay tribute to our outgoing director, Professor John Cooper. John stepped into the role at short notice in the summer of 2021 and has since served the Society for almost 4 years during a very challenging period. The role of director, overseeing our publication, research and grants, is time-consuming, especially for someone in a full-time employment far from London. I believe it's especially important for some of our officers to be in active employment rather than retired, but recognise this is increasingly difficult as the pressures on everyone seem to intensify. John has fulfilled the role of director with distinction and has been especially helpful to us in our debates about future strategy. I thank him most. I'd like now to turn briefly to think about our global context. Like many of you, over the past months, I've become increasingly alarmed by events and attitudes in the wider world within which we live. In the UK, we have seen economic pressures resulting in the closure of libraries, museums, academic institutions, with the loss of jobs of valued colleagues. Such pressures are endangering public access to our heritage, and we note with concern the impact they have on civil society. In this context, I've been heartened to read the work that is exploring the broad cultural and social values of our subject areas. In the sphere of archaeology, I've long been impressed by the thoughtful work of our fellow Sadie Watson that she's done as a UKRI Future Leadership Fellow. Her summary, which I would recommend you all read, Archaeology, What is it Good For?, published in British Archaeology in April this year, provides an eloquent analysis of the social and societal benefits of my own subject. I believe it would be extremely valuable to see similar presentations of other aspects of the Society's varied academic interests. Although I'm a little sceptical about some of the broader claims for archaeology made by our fellow John Schofield of York University in his book, Wicked Problems for Archaeologists, Heritage as Transformative Practice, summarized in Current Archaeology in May this year. He does make important points about the contribution that studies of the past can and do make to intractable problems through interdisciplinary research. The more we can articulate the values of our subjects to a broader public, the better. However, I'm not entirely certain that either of these two sets of analyses give sufficient emphasis to the central value of our discipline. Understanding, explaining, and defending this value is exceptionally important. In the wider world, the situation seems to me to be deteriorating in depressing ways. Aside from wars and violence that now afflict far too many people, we have also become depressingly, we have also depressingly witnessed an increasing disregard for values of truth and honesty, alongside the devaluing of expert knowledge. In the sphere of history, we have become too familiar with the use of false historical narratives to justify actions such as the annexation of parts of Ukraine, or the appropriation of academic terms like Anglo-Saxon to support odious racist ideologies. Denials of reality and accusation of false news or hoax have become commonplace, while full frontal attacks on academic freedom in American museums and universities are worryingly reminiscent of Germany in the 1930s. In such times, I think we should be bold and forthright in articulating and defending the core values that underpin Western liberal democracy and understanding and appreciating the roles of societies such as ours in these democracies. First, as I said when I met North American Fellows for an online meeting a couple of weeks ago, fellowship involves us in supporting and bolstering those under threat. We must stand shoulder to shoulder with those whose values we share when they come under attack, wherever and whenever this happens. Second, while exploring the social value and relevance of our subject, as for instance in the work I've just referred to by Sadie Watson and John Schofield, I think we need to be give a much stronger emphasis to the primary value of our work in research. First and foremost, a society such as ours, which celebrates expert knowledge and understanding, must be about promoting high quality, rigorous, evidence-based research, questioning, accepting interpretation of assumptions, rejecting second-rate ideas, and countering false arguments and narratives. The origin of this society lies in such Enlightenment values. Now, more than ever, we should actively and loudly deploy and promote those values to defend the values of the world in which we believe. Thank you.
Fellows and guests, I have pleasure in proposing that the thanks of the meeting be returned to the President for his address and that he be requested to allow it to be published.
Thank you. Be delighted. I hope you will now join us for a reception held in the lobby. The meeting stands adjourned.